Yes, yes. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing well today. And heading into another, for United anyway, football-less weekend, though I guess there are other games going on. The way that this whole thing is structured, I've been confused. But yeah, I mean, there's other games going on, so I guess there might be some other football to watch this weekend if you're around the continent and all of that. So at least professional, non-international football is back, and we have that coming back anyway. So we can get a little taste of what it's like to finally have football back on the menu. You know, it's been ages. But anyway, hope everybody's doing well. It's been a good few weeks getting all of this stuff together, getting all these videos together for you guys. Did Pablo Barrios this morning. I've got some more center backs I want to do, and that's where I want to start in today's discussion, is about center backs, because we've had, I once again want to back up, slow down a little, and say I've been hearing things, and it's not because I'm crazy. I mean, maybe I am, but I also have been hearing things, and and I haven't hallucinated, okay? Separate the two out, okay? Muppet voices in my ears, and I'm having a hard time determining if it's real or if it's, as I described in a previous video, a degree of Muppet theory. You know what I mean? Muppet theory being, of course, this idea that sometimes I talk about stuff and then it starts to come around and come back, and I start to hear more about it, and I'm going, but is it real, or is it just happening because I've been talking about it? Am I putting it out in the universe and it's coming back to me? I don't know. And that's the danger. That's the danger when you do things the way I do them, where a lot of it is under the radar, the right kind of whispers and things like that. But you end up getting a lot of early info that some of it comes to pass and some of it doesn't. The whispers are powerful. Anyway, and it's about center backs. And I'm starting to feel like it's a little bit like the keeper situation last summer. Do you guys remember that last summer, we kept hearing like, keeper not a priority, probably won't get a keeper. And I spoke to people in very high places, and they're good people, wonderful people, the best people. But I spoke to people in very high places who said, and I think they meant it at the time to a degree, that a keeper was not a priority, a keeper might not happen. But I had this feeling, not this feeling, but I was also hearing from other places that they were trying to get a keeper. And I think that they were keeping it on the down low until it was done. Until they were sure that they were going to get something, obviously. And even then, we almost didn't do it. We got Lamens on like the final day of the window, and it was between Emi Martinez and Lamens, but we kept kind of trying for Emi Martinez during the summer, and not getting it done, too expensive issues that we had. And the center back is starting to feel a bit like keeper. It's starting to feel a bit like keeper, where it's like, I think we want a center back pretty bad. And I think we're looking at center backs. And I think we've had some discussions with center backs. And I'm hearing rumors and things and little whispers here and there that it's actually becoming a strong priority for the club to make a signing at center back this summer. I'm not ready or confident enough to say yet that I'm sure that they will. I think logically they should. Logically, it's the right call. Logically, it's a necessity. Logically, I look at it like the keeper thing last year, and I think, imagine where we would be without Senna Lamens if we hadn't done it. Because it feels similar. We were looking at keepers all last year. We had discussions with James Trafford. Like, we literally had meetings with him. I know it for a fact about coming to United while we were hearing we're not going to get a keeper. And I'm going, it doesn't make any sense. We need a keeper. And I have a feeling center back will be similar next year, because I look at it and I go, everybody's like, look, the reality of Matthijs de Ligt is that even if he's back, when a player has a significant back injury that cannot be healed with like a surgery, that cannot be healed with certain things, right? And it goes like this. The fact of the matter is their entire career is in jeopardy. And you cannot be sure that they will ever be consistently fit again. It has to be managed pretty heavily from that point on. It's just a fact of life in football, right? Lisandro Martinez, I saw someone talking about this the other day. The calf injuries that he's picking up, post-knee and ACL injuries and things like that, are a massive, massive warning sign for an Achilles tear. A huge warning sign. And I hope to God that that does not happen to him, but they are a huge warning sign that he has to be incredibly careful about. Because essentially what it means is that in the way that your body repairs itself, people have seen this all the time. And I saw someone talking about this on Twitter, and they're absolutely correct. And you've seen this, and you see it in sport. It happens all the time. It's a regular pattern. When players get major injuries, if it heals a certain way, they start moving a bit different. And the way that they're moving, they start putting extra strain on their calves. Now, where are your calves is obviously right there in the same back, right where the tendon of your Achilles runs through. You're putting the same strain on your Achilles tendon at that point in time. You're overstraining it in the way that you're moving, the way that you're balancing, the way that you're running, all of that. And it's a massive warning sign. Yeah, it happens in basketball all the time. Yep. It's like, you saw it in the Indiana Pacers guy. He had like these calf injuries, these calf muscle injuries, you know? And then he kind of was playing through some of the strains. And I think it was in last year's playoffs or something where you could see his Achilles snap on the court. Horrible
Games
stuff.
Off topic,
Horrible
but do
stuff.
you think SJR will buy us out?
Not anytime soon, fully anyway. I do think there are some ownership changes coming in terms of the balance of things, but not a full buyout or anything like that anytime soon. It's very ordinary and it's worrying. And I know they're not stupid, so I know that they look at that and they go, Maguire, we already know we've got to, Halliburton, that's what it was. Yep. Maguire, we already know we have to shut down, you know, for 30 games or something like that. That's pretty much all he can do. And you know, that's it. So I know they're aware of it. I know they're not stupid. And I get the feeling if we miss on a center back, it'll be like if we missed on a keeper this year, that we end up at a point, October, November, or something like that, like around the time we put Lamens in, where if we don't have a center back, we'll be going, this is rough. This is looking bad. This is looking really, really, really bad. We just have two young players in Euro and Heaven. We've got Champions League group games. It's like a disaster. I could see it being a disaster if we don't do that. So, you know, I could see it being a disaster. And so I can believe the whispers in that I know United have at least looked. That I'm sure of. I can start to believe the whispers that maybe, just maybe, it is becoming a big priority. And I am hearing those whispers. I'm just not confident in them yet, and not confident to say it with my chest that we will sign a center back. But I'm hearing the whispers, and they're logical. So I want to believe them at this stage that a center back might become a real priority in this window. Not that the other things aren't that we've talked about. Not that we're going to pass up midfielders or something, but that it's being viewed as something that we do need to do. And if there's a great opportunity, then it's something that we absolutely should do.
Would you take an older attacker in the summer?
Yes, but I'm not particularly bothered about the attackers. You know what I mean? I'm genuinely not. I would take an older attacker. I would take an older forward for some experience, some leadership. If there was a Cavani type, I'm just not sure who's out there that could actually be at that level. You know what I mean? Who is actually good enough that I be happy when they're getting minutes, not just playing for minutes' sake. You know? But so I hope the whispers are true, and there's whispers inside, and there's of course whispers outside. We've talked quite a bit about Nico Schlotterbeck as a player that could well be on the move this summer, that could well be of interest. And yes, he's negotiating a new contract at Dortmund, and I'm putting 9 out of 10 right now. I'm putting money on he'll end up signing a new deal, and someone from England will go, "Wow, but United were never interested." It was, they feel his agent was just using United's name to secure better contract terms. That story gets written a lot, and it's always about 50-50 in terms of truth. Yeah, that's true, and it's probably part of what's going on. That the word is being spread a little bit because he's there for contract renewals, and they want the best deal, and it's good to link the names and things like that. And for sure, that's probably the case. But make no mistake, certainly there is truth that United would be attentive to him. So we get the story from Germany that says United are interested in Borussia Dortmund center back Nico Schlotterbeck. This is right after we talked about it yesterday, by the way. If he doesn't renew his contract at Dortmund, he'll be available for 30 to 35 million in the summer. Now, that and the thing I wonder is, are the whispers true, or are they contingent in terms of their truth? Are they true if there's an opportunity that is that good? Because Nico Schlotterbeck for 30 to 35 million euros is such a damn good deal that you can't not be in the conversation. You put the money down and say, go, let's get him. Essentially, you've replaced Lisandro Martinez. Boom, it's done. He's replaced. That's it. He still has some weaknesses. Schlotterbeck is not, he's maybe not the most intense, amazing. He has some defensive frailties and things, but he is unbelievable on the ball, and he's tall and all of that. So, type of player where at that price, no matter what your situation is, no matter if you wanted to go get center backs next summer, if you could get Schlotterbeck for 30 million euros, you do it. Period. You don't even question it. You don't even question it. You just do it, right? So a part of me wonders if the whispers are not just because of that potential availability that United would be keen on something like that. Liverpool certainly will be a bit keen. Now, I do agree in that I think that the most likely outcome here is that he stays and renews his contract, and we get told that it was all agent talk and all that. And that's fine. I'm okay with hearing that. I expect we're going to hear that, but still, if there's a chance, there's a chance, and United should be alive to it. If it doesn't happen, who else can we get? Madrid also really like him as well, yeah, but I'm just not sure what they're going to do yet in the market. Who else do we really like? Again, Braithwaite I think is more like a later thing, not now. I think he needs to prove his fitness, and the price would be prohibitive this summer. But yeah, we need to inquire. We need to be around it. If that kind of player is moving, we need to be there. Murillo is somebody we've looked at. I'm not convinced he'd be cheap or easy to get out of Forest no matter what happens. But yeah, those are a few options. And then there's others that I think everybody in the Prem is at least attentive to, or at least knows about, which is of course Senesi on a free and Van Heck. But yeah, Andy Mitten has said on Talk with the Devils a few times that he's also heard United want a leader at the back. It's just, you talk to some people and some people say stuff and it goes, it'll be next year or something like that. You know what I mean? And they say it'll be next year. Next year we'll get to the center backs and all of that. So it's hard to know the truth on this as to whether United are going to make any sort of move or do it or not. We just don't know. But I hear whispers, man. I do hear whispers, and I hope that they are true. But yeah, Liverpool are probably going to be in the market for that center back thing as well. So we'll have to watch it. I'll do Senesi and Van Heck in a video here shortly as well. But I'm pretty sure everybody here probably thinks if Schlatter, is there anyone here, speak now or forever hold your peace. If there's anybody here who thinks if Schlotterbeck is available for 30-35 million, that United shouldn't do it this summer, that they shouldn't at least say, well, we'll do it and see if they can get him to pick us. Is there anyone who thinks that? And if so, please explain. Liverpool did sign. No, did they? Did they get the deal for Jacquet done? Maybe they did already. They might need multiple. You were right on goalkeeper, so I guess you're right on this. Well, that's my hope, because it feels similar to me. I'm getting a lot of vibes about the keeper. I'm getting a lot of vibes. I'm getting a lot of those vibes. That it feels similar. No brainer. You don't want it to take away from the midfield. I hear that. I don't think it would. Hearing whispers. Yeah. Slaughter Beckham. Easiest guest of all time. Yeah, I mean, I think the vast majority of people are on the same page, and rightly so. I mean, come on. No? It's easy. It's an easy deal. So it's interesting times regardless. I guess we'll see over the next few weeks if we hear any more about this and everything that happens, but if he renews his contract or not, and where this ends. Price war. I'm not sure we'll get into a price war because he's going to have to be sold at a fair price and all of that. Don't want to hear anything about it until the midfield started. And I get that too. Bastoni's going to go to Barcelona. I think we can rule that one out. I think that one's destined for Barcelona. I think that's it. Otherwise, I'm enjoying the Chelsea meltdown. This is the craziest thing, that in like the last few days, you've had like 3 or 4 Chelsea players talk about going to Madrid. As I've said for quite some time, I think Enzo will be, there's definitely been those conversations about Enzo to Madrid from Chelsea. And that's part of what might free up a Madrid midfielder if that tends to happen. But I have found it extremely amusing watching the Chelsea project just implode overnight, of just absolutely implode. Just consistently, players talking about leaving, dreaming of bigger pastures, and the club falling apart. You've got the coach saying we need to buy players of emotional intelligence or whatever that is and everything. And I'm going, and I just think it's really funny. The whole thing. I think it's really funny. I do. I think it's absolutely hilarious. The whole situation that's going on over there. Utterly predictable. And man, do I hope that Chelsea miss out on Europe. Yeah. If they miss out on Europe, even just Champions League, honestly, if they miss out. But if they somehow fall even down below like Europa or something, oh my God, the meltdown, the backlash within their club and everything that happens is going to be insane. This, of course, after they also recorded 274 million loss. What are they going to do? Genuinely, 274 million pound loss. There's no way that they can solve this. There's absolutely no way. They're going to be paying penalties. They're going to be having to sell players. They're going to have to do so much shit to solve this and resolve this. It's no wonder that they're going to stick with Rosinho, because they can't even afford to sack the fucking guy and hire somebody else. Financially, they're absolutely screwed. So, yeah, what a house of cards that the whole Chelsea thing has become. And, always was, but it's really interesting to see it all falling to pieces now. So I'm amused by that. It's only good news for us. Fewer rivals, fewer issues there. I mean, it's hilarious. Enzo talking about
cold, cool face emoji.
Feel cold. Well, that's good. It's hilarious. Enzo talking about salaries and contracts and things when he's got 7 years left on a deal and they signed 9-year contracts and shit. Like, man, they really, really, really have not got this right. Now they're talking about wanting Prem experienced players and, Prem this and Prem that. And look, there's whispers about Cole Palmer, and you're going to get really wide range of reactions to it. Okay. Because there are definitely whispers about Cole Palmer, about United saying, not because we need him this summer necessarily, but because if he's looking to leave and Chelsea need to sell, and they're going to deny and say they aren't and all of that, then you might be going, well, we could preload getting another talent up to United before we really need him. Not bad to load up on depth. And again, you're going to get a lot of different reactions to it. Some people really don't like Palmer right now. Some people really don't like Palmer right now. Some people really aren't high on the Cole Palmer train at the moment, and some people still really are. And I'm not sure where I land on it, but there's certainly an interest from United, at least being attentive to the situation. You know what I mean? Let's put it that way. There's absolutely no doubt that they are attentive to the situation of Cole Palmer and saying, we need him now. If we could get him now on a bargain, maybe not a bad idea. So I don't know how I feel about it. Obviously, I don't want us to take, again, same thing. I don't want to take money away from other things we need to sign because it's not very necessary at the moment. At the same time, I get it. More playmakers, more ball players, more guys who can create goals, more guys who can score goals. You know, we do lack a little depth in that area. You know, you be beyond Mbeumo and Cunha and Bruno. Once you start dropping off of them, we don't have a ton of creators. We don't have a ton of goal scorers. And I think there's a point where one bad injury and we're going, our team's not bad. It's not ruined, but we could drop off on the goals quite a bit. You know, with one thing happening, we saw it during AFCON. Bruno was out and Mbeumo was out. The goals dry, really, really ran dry. And you could say that, and I don't think that was Amorim because we scored a lot of goals over the whole course of the season. Our goals record was a lot better in general, but during AFCON, it fell off a cliff. Our creative levels were significantly lower with Bruno out and Mbeumo out. And so we don't have a ton of creative depth in the team is I guess what I'm saying. So even though it's not necessary, if he's available and he's going to move and it's not and it's not crazy overpriced, I could see why you'd want to be attentive to it because in the long term, we do need more creators in the team. That's for sure. The long term, but maybe it's not so high priority at the moment. So that's an interesting thing to think about. Give them Mount back. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, as well, getting a good attacking fullback as well as another winger, that is also one of the reasons why you want to do that, which I understand, though I've gone back and forth about it, you know, where you could move Cunha inside and get a winger, a creator out wide like an Njai or something like that. Does help there too. The other thing is this. We're talking about this potentially a big push for Anderson yesterday. And I've hinted that I've heard some interesting things about City. And I'm not going to lie, guys. This is the Whispers show today, but I have tingles. I've got the tingles. I've got the Muppet tingles all around right now, talking about and thinking about that City might be struggling. City might be in trouble. That perhaps the City project is starting to look a little less appealing. And United are thinking more and more that they've got a chance at this Anderson thing, right? I think I said it in like a video earlier this week or last week that I've heard some interesting things about City behind the scenes in terms of what people are hearing, about what people are hearing about manager next season, about stuff like that. And I don't know that it's clear, you know? Like, I'll pull up something here. Here it is. All right, I'm going to pull something up here. So Fabrizio said this the other day, all right, doing a little bit of PR for Man City. Says Manchester City will let Pep Guardiola decide what he wants to do with his future. As reported since January, Enzo Maresca is a favorite if when Pep decides to leave. Despite reports on Company, first of all, who wrote reports on Company? Manchester City really appreciate Maresca. Now, I can tell you behind the scenes that I can tell you with some certainty, not whispers, not rumors, with some certainty. Seriously, some certainty.
300 million for Palmer, Bailba, Anderson and Schlotterbeck James. Thoughtful face emoji.
60, 140, 160. I don't think it would be 300 million. You'd have 60 for Baleba, 100 for Anderson, that's 160. Only 30 for Schlotterbeck, that's 190. 70 or 80 for Palmer, because no one's paying 100 for Palmer. You'd maybe be only like 250. And yeah, I would do it. I would do that. In a heartbeat, I would do that. But I think, anyway, what I can say with some certainty, what I can say with some absolute certainty is that there are people in the football world that have been told different things about who's going to be the manager next season at at City. Different names, different things. And I know that with certainty, and I'm not talking about just random people. I'm talking about important people that potentially decide, you know, where players go. Different people have heard different things in recent weeks about who's going to be there next season from City. And I kind of get the idea we might be hearing that there might be a little bit of chaos. And I think that even that little post from Fabrizio is a little bit trying to cull some of the noise from connections or whatever, telling them, hey, no, it's going to be, don't, you know, let's say this. I'm not sure I believe it. I'll be honest. I think that someone's trying to cull the noise and settle the noise at the moment. And that it may be a little more chaotic than anybody's letting on in terms of City right now, in terms of what's going on behind the scenes. That there's definitely massive doubts about Pep leaving, like doubts as in there's massive feeling that he might leave end of season, big feelings that he might leave end of season. And that who could be coming in is a little less certain. Maybe there's not everybody's convinced about Maresca, you know? And even if it was Maresca, how convincing is Maresca for players? I'm not going to be convinced if I'm joining Enzo Maresca. You know, I think that takes a massive amount of the draw away, you know? So it's interesting. It's interesting stuff. I think there's a little bit of chaos potentially going on there. And I think that perhaps it's becoming a little messier than they're letting on behind the scenes. And look, anything could happen. Maybe Pep does a 180 and says, I'm going to stay. I'm not fucking leaving. You know what I mean? And then he stays. You know, it could happen. Could happen. I'm not sure it will happen, but it could happen. So there's a little chaos there. And then you take that little bit of chaos and you throw this into the equation. Man City have offered a new contract to Rodri. City would still ask for a big fee or to leave later. And I'm going, and I'm just getting my ears perked up a little to say, are they preparing for the potentiality of maybe they're not going to get their Rodri replacement this summer? Maybe they're going to get a different manager in, and they may not have the same pull that they were thinking they would have before. And they might need to keep Rodri. They might need to hold him. And their strong rebuild of the midfield might take a little bit longer. Just saying. Maybe. It's possible. It's possible. So there's just these little things going on with City that have me feeling like perhaps it's not all done and dusted. And you combine that with United sort of this, like we talked about the other day, a little bit of a shift in brief on United being assuring that they're very strongly still in for Elliot Anderson and he's their top target. And I go, so United are trying to really make clear they're in for Elliot Anderson. While I've been picking at this all day. United are trying really sure to ensure everyone knows we're really strongly in for Anderson. while at the same time you're getting a little bit of chaos at City about who's manager next year. Chaos behind the scenes, and they're doing some briefs to try to set the record straight, even if it's not actually true. Maybe it's slightly true, maybe it isn't. And then at the same time, they're offering Rodri a new contract. And I'm going, I can connect the dots a little bit here if I want to. And I don't think it's that crazy to connect the dots. I don't think it's that wild to connect the dots. In fact, they're pretty clear. It's like a kid's menu at a restaurant. Those dots obviously, it's obviously a giraffe. I don't have to go through all the steps. I could see it's a fucking giraffe once you collect all these dots. And that's just, I don't know. It's got me wondering. It's got me thinking. Maybe we really do have a chance. So, a few weeks from now, United secured Champions League. City have fallen away from the title. Unfortunately, Arsenal may secure it, which will be a bummer, but life. Pep makes his announcement. The season's over. And suddenly, Elliot Anderson is ours. And we've been hearing that we want to push ahead for it before the World Cup as well. So, and I haven't even mentioned the charges because I don't think they're ever going to fucking happen. But we could throw that into the equation as well. We could. In fairness, City will be signing the Rodri replacement now regardless. I understand, but while Rodri is there and you're offering him a new contract, it's a different role. It's a different job. And if he's staying longer, even if Pep were to stay another year, you're still talking about a different manager by the time you're the guy. So, there's room here for something to happen. There's room here. And I'm for it. I'm kind of I'm intrigued by the whole situation. And I do think that it is not outside the realm of possibility, if not plausibility, that we could be there. Personally, I think we'll finish ahead of Man City next year. I think that City's team, I don't know if you guys have noticed this about football, by the way. I don't know if anybody's noticed this. I do bet that people have noticed it, right? I'm sure people have noticed this, but it feels like it's been a long time with City. But I do want to remind people something, just how fucking rare it is for a club to continue on. How do I phrase this? You know what made Sir Alex so great? And even then there was that brief small period, right, where people were like, "Oh, he's finished. The old guard is gone." What made Sir Alex so great, right, in the period of dominance that he had was the transition from his first great core of players to the second great core of players, right? Because as much as everybody makes a big deal about managers and all that, I think they're overrated as in some respects. But what made Sir Alex so great, what he accomplished that was so incredible, what Wenger could never do, and he didn't win a lot, Wenger, right? He had his one core, and then when that left, they were never that good again. True or false? I think true. And it took a long time to get good again. This is the cycle of football. With City, you have to realize, they've just come out, the last two seasons, they're just fully falling away from what was the same core that has won everything with Pep all those years. And I understand that there's a lot of changes in the players, but there was enough transition while they kept certain people in place. First of all, Bernardo Silva, for example, leaving right now. Bernardo Silva is probably the last remaining core of their main team in all of that. De Bruyne gone. They haven't been the same since. Rodri's injury accelerated it, even though he wasn't a part of the original kind of core of players. They've never really they've not pulled back from the original core of essentially what was a Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva, Bernardo Silva type team. You know what I mean? And the players that came with that. They managed to turn the Aguero into a Erling Haaland, and they managed to work through some of those things. But they have not rebuilt the core of that team to anywhere near the level of quality and of anything that it was before. And that's why they've fallen off. And I don't see any evidence that they're going to turn around and be amazing again in the future, because Rodri has fallen off with his injury. Haaland is, of course, still amazing. We know that. But I'm not talking about necessarily individual talent. It's like what's happening to Liverpool to a degree. They changed managers. That's a big part of it. But Slot, essentially, the core of the team's ripped. Salah going, Trent gone, Robertson old, the midfield that was there before gone, Van Dijk getting on in years, Alisson, lots of injuries nowadays. The core of that successful Liverpool side is now over. And so you're not seeing the same side anymore. And it's far from guaranteed that they'll just rebuild and be back to themselves. I don't think that's true. Very, 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 very few teams do that, especially in England in particular, right? You see it in Spain because Real Madrid financially, Barcelona financially, always have the money to beat everyone by leaps and bounds. Not small measures, but by gigantic leaps and bounds financially, right? In England, the gaps have never been that big. And so you don't really see that. And that, again, Sir Alex is the only one in the entirety of the Premier League era that has done it. Everyone else, they've had their time in the sun. But this City team now, even if the players right now were at their best, does it compare to their team from 5 years ago? To me, not even fucking close. They don't have anybody near De Bruyne's level. They don't have anybody near Kyle Walker, what he was doing for them over there. They don't have anybody near David Silva, and Bernardo Silva likes in their prime, these players. They don't have a Gundogan, like that level anymore. They've got a bunch of good players that don't all really fit together in the same kind of way, and you can see that it's struggling. So I look at that and I go, I don't see a team that is on the cusp of bouncing back to be the best team in the league because I don't see it in their squad. Forget the coach. The squad, there's no squad. The times in the previous years, during Pep's dominance, they always had the best squad, far and away, insane players, the best players. I don't look at their team and think, wow, those guys are all incredible. I think, outside of, a few, I genuinely don't think they're anywhere near the level of overall squad quality and balance that they used to have for so many different reasons. I don't think it's even close. I think they have a lot of individuals with decent skill sets that are just, I don't know, something different about it. It's not the same. I don't think it's been rebuilt in the same way that United's have. But that's why they're looking at players like Elliot Anderson. That's why they want that. That's why they need that. And they need more than that. They need multiple midfielders of that level. They need multiple other positions as well, regardless of Pep or not. So I don't feel as though City are right on the track. Like, if you take Pep away from it, you look at that squad and you remove Pep, I don't think anyone thinks league leaders, favorites. I don't think anyone thinks it. If you looked at their team 5 years ago, you probably would have still said, even without Pep, it's probably one of the best teams, if not the best, far and away the best squad in the league. You would have. Not anymore. So there's serious opportunities here. And I think that anybody with who's smart should be looking at it and saying their time is over. Seriously. It's not going to be like this moving forward. It's already stopped. They're already not the dominance that they had before. You know what I mean? So I think that anybody smart needs to look at that and say, whose phase is it in? Whose phase is ready now? Like whose time in the sun is it? And it could very well be United's next. I mean, look at this team. This team has the marks. I don't like making the Arsenal comparison, but I've made it most of the year. United are have all the hallmarks of the Arsenal and Liverpool sides like a year before they were really good. If you remember it. They have all the hallmarks of it. So many of the things that they do are very, very similar to like that year before Arsenal were contenders and the year before Liverpool were contenders, where they started to be a dangerous side that could beat anybody, that were solid, that was grinding out those points, you know, and started to have some serious players in there. But you could obviously sit there and go, they just need a couple of stars. Couple of big pieces to finish it out. And I think that's where we're at. We need that. I think that that midfield signing will be our Virgil van Dijk was for Klopp. That level of change where there was a huge weakness in their side, right? If you guys recall how good Liverpool were, but they had a huge weakness at center back and at goalkeeper with Carrick and Van Dijk. Carrick and whoever was there before. Can't remember the names. But whoever was Matip's partner. And I look at that and I go, I think that's where we are. We're like, you get that level of signing, that Van Dijk step up signing in the midfield. And I think you're going to see the team go to a whole nother level because exactly that, like where we are with the midfield that we got, with the fullbacks that we've got, I'm looking and I'm going, holy shit. And when Maguire is out, I think it's kind of like that at center back too. You're going, Jesus Christ, we need a center back. That's why it's a big deal to me. But that's where I feel we're at. We're at that stage where Liverpool were, where they needed those two guys that just changed their lives. That just completely changed their lives. Two top players that just completely changed their lives. Lovren, yeah, exactly. That's what it was. I think that's where it's at. That's where I think United is. And that's where I think any player needs to sit there and go, that could be me. I could be the catalyst now because that United team is on the cusp. That's my hope. That's my hopium. That's my sales pitch. You know, that would be my sales pitch to anybody watching. That would be my sales pitch from the club to agents and players and all of that. You know, that you're the, Elliot Anderson, you could be the Van Dijk signing we needed. The one where we go from an almost club, an almost team to actual contenders. I think that's all it takes, honestly. I really do. I really do. And I think that technically we need two of those in the midfield to be like that. So that's my feeling on the matter. And it's why I have some hope because I don't see how we're far from it. I started this season thinking we'll get top 4, top 5. And I remember I said, if we get Lamens and Baleba, title charge. Now, this was on the basis of Baleba looking like one of the most promising midfielders in the league. So obviously his form since then hasn't been great. But I come to the end of the season here in April, and I remember doing that live before the season starts. and saying to you guys, if you guys remember, because I clipped it, it got like, anyway, it was one of those first things that like, it blew up on I have a small TikTok and Instagram. It's not big. I haven't done a ton of attention to them, but I've been trying to post more over the years. So please make sure you go follow them, by the way. The links are below. But please do follow the TikTok and Instagram because I post little reels and clips and things. But I remember that clip specifically because it blew up and it was like one of the first ones I did that actually like went really big. But I remember saying it to you guys here, if we get Lamens and Baleba, title charge. We won't win a title, but we'll be competitive. I come to the end of the season, I feel the same way. If we get the level of player that we were that relative to what we were talking about at that time, a class, really, really high quality midfielder, and we got the keeper, and look at the difference he made. Lamens took us probably from an 8th place side to a 3rd place team. I think that midfielder takes us from here to a title charge. Seriously. I think that midfielder does. Why not? We're not that far off. We're not much worse than these guys. We're just not. Now, we might have some depth issues over the course of the season and all that. Fine. It might be a little bit harder. But how are we that far off, man? How many games? I was half joking too, but like I think about it and I'm like, but I do think it's true because we're here. We're in 3rd place. We're in 3rd place. How many games, how many points we had picked up with a better midfield this year? Seriously, how many times did we lose a win to a draw because our midfield got run through and we conceded a shit goal? How many times? It must be worth at least 10 points. At least. You know? We could be contenders with that. Seriously, like, seriously. How can we say it wouldn't be? I know life's not always that simple and the math ain't always that simple and shit happens and there's no guarantees. But honestly, you know, no Europe's benefiting us. It is, but I stand by the point of if we didn't have Europe all season, if we'd had a better midfielder, I think we would have improved. I think we would have won a lot of games. I think we would have won a lot more games. I mean, even if forget it, we had Amram for a lot of the year, but if we'd had a midfielder, we wouldn't have had Bruno deep all year, you know, or maybe he would have been deep still, but next to a partner that would have actually worked for how crazy that midfield setup was. But I don't know, man. But that's one player. I'm not talking about one. We definitely need more depth. But we're talking about signing 4 or 5. So that's hopefully offsetting some of the depth issues we will have by having to play in more competitions next year. You know what I mean? So you know, yeah. I totally also agree. The Europe, the no Europe, all of that is a benefit we've got right now. And it'll be harder next year with multiple competitions. But alternatively, we're not talking about signing 1 player. We're talking about signing 5 players this summer. 3 midfielders. There's your depth. A fullback or a winger. There's depth. A center back. There's depth. So we also had AFCON. We were the team most affected by AFCON this year. Honestly, let's just pause for a moment. Imagine if there was no AFCON this year and we weren't down Bruno, Ahmad and Mbumo and Mazraoui at the same time as we were down Bruno Fernandes. We dropped like 9 points during AFCON in games we could have won. Wolves at home, shit like that. Leeds away, you know, which is our upcoming game, Leeds at home. We could even just take away AFCON. We could have been up 4 to 6 points this year, right? So that was where the lack of depth hurt us a lot, right? We dropped a lot of points in there. So anyway, I just look at it and I go, I can't see how, with how it's turned around, I'm back to feeling how I felt earlier in the year. Fuck, man, we're not that far off. Oh, no, I better not come back. I ain't worried about that. So I hope they just go for it, you know? hope we just go for it. And I do think I just don't see the logic of why we can't be that far off. You know, why we can't be the logic of why are we so far behind these guys? We're not. We watch the football every week. We're not far behind these guys. We really aren't. The gap, and that's factual too. I mean, you've seen the graphs. We've kind of talked about it, how the top level of the Prem is a lot lower than it used to be. The fact is, the gap from first to fifth is small. And the gap from fifth to 17th is small. So sometimes I think the fact that it feels like we're also not much better than the teams behind us doesn't actually mean we're not close to the teams in front of us. It's just the whole field, instead of being this wide, is this wide, you know? So when it was this wide and you're in third, you feel like you're still miles away. Whereas when it's this small and it's this narrow, when you're right here, you're fucking close. Fucking close, man. So, I don't know. I'm just excited. If we can pull this off, man, if we can pull this off. If we can pull off this, you know, our midfield Van Dijk type signing, you know, our Rodri, our whatever, you know, Fabinho, whatever that we want to call that signing, if we can pull that off, I genuinely think that this team will be contenders. And it may fall away, you know, at times. You know, there may be times that it falls away because of other difficulties and things like that go on. But I believe, man. I do believe. I believe we have a chance. A real serious one, for that matter. So, guess we shall see. Yeah, we did talk Schlotterbeck news. Elliot Anderson would be Rooney 2004. Shows United has the pull. Indeed. 5 signings and Nike sponsorship. Could be some not sponsorship. The Ireland trip is there for any games? Is there any games? The Ireland trip, is there any games? You mean, are United playing any games? I don't think so. The lack of games is going to hurt us, but it's hurting everybody in the Prem, isn't it? So I guess it's on even footing on that note. Anything else I wanted to talk about today? I think that's it. Okay. I think that's all I wanted to speak about today. But yeah, I'm just excited, man. I'm just excited. And I've got the tingles on the Muppet stuff. I've got the tingles on Anderson and on a few things that have just got me going. And I'm just feeling hopeful. Very, very hopeful right now. Very intrigued by everything that's going on. A kid feeling better. Yeah, he's good. He's all good, back to school and everything. It's Easter over in the States for anybody, you know, Easter. So be family stuff this weekend and all of that. You missed a stream. It's all right. Resume. It's alive. You can watch it again. But click like, by the way. Click like. You know, by the way, I have found the poll I did today where I just said, have you liked the video? And I said, yes, click the thumbs up then, Buster. It worked the best. 181 likes today. That's the most. It was a good test. Just telling people more explicitly, just click the damn button seems to work pretty well. Sponsorship deals. There could well be sponsorship deals this summer. Yeah, when we get Champions League again. One of the things that I've have one of the things I've heard a little bit.
James, my only concern is the manger. Does he have the right coaching skills / style?
Well, that's a question. But again, who does? I know it's not an American holiday. It's just I'm more as like if you celebrate. I don't even know if celebrate is the right word because it used to be is it still a religious holiday? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's more like it's I don't even know what you call Easter anymore. You know. Anyway, the manger. But I guess the question on the manager is who does. Who has the skills and the style out there in the Prem? Let's say Pep is leaving. Who's our competition? That's part of the thing, right? Who are we competing with? Who is the manager in the Prem that stands head and shoulders above Michael Carrick right now? Pep leaves. Who is it? Even if Carrick's not the best manager on earth and we could get better. No, it's okay, Marcus. I didn't know what to say. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying about it, honestly. But like, who's better? Slop? No. Guy can't close his legs. Yeah, I'll get back to the question on sponsorships. Thank you. Yes, I have heard that some sponsorship things they want to do when they have the negotiating platform of being back in the Champions League. So I do expect we will hear more about sponsors this summer once we have secured Champions League. As a blunt answer, yes. Unai? No, not for me. I think... Excuse me. Unai is a very good manager. I rate him a lot. But he's short. Not height-wise, but he has a shortcoming in that there's certain things he cannot do and that he's not shown a level of. And he's not shown the level of competition over the course of a season beyond the way that he plays a certain style of football. I don't think he's yet shown a style that could win titles ever. I think he's in the bracket below. Maybe Carrick's in that bracket too, but I'm just saying that's what we're talking about. We're competing in the same bracket. Arteta obviously is the only guy who's won a title, but Arsenal play like such shit, and they're not much above us that I just can't see why they would be. That I don't feel there's much of a gap there. And on Carrick, for what it's worth, I saw some stories today about how. From I think it was Rich Fay at the MEN or something, or somebody, maybe it's Tyrone Marshall. I don't remember. Maybe Rich Fay's not there anymore. Tyrone Marshall, somebody who said that, the view within the club is that Carrick's who's passed over the Premier League competition in terms of potential coaches and things like that. The other names. We've talked about that for some time, but I'm quite certain that is true. As far as I know, I've heard some things in the last day or so that just further reinforce my view that it's very likely going to be Carrick. I just think so. So, yeah. It is what it is. All right. That's it. I'm done. It's been fun. It's been a fun stream. I appreciate you all very much. I don't want to take up any more of your time on this Friday night. Get out there, enjoy your life, enjoy your weekend. I will see you guys tomorrow for more videos, more stuff, more lives, more everything. And we'll have some more news. And then finally next week, we'll be back to pre-match week lead-up type of shit where we could talk about it. And then within a few weeks, hopefully we have Champions League secure, and it's a strong run to the end of the season. And then following that, it's a short gap until the World Cup. And make no mistake, guys, there's going to be a ton of news before, during, and around the World Cup. But we will also be doing a lot of World Cup discussions, watch-alongs, fun stuff like that. I think it'll be a blast. I've never covered a World Cup as an active YouTuber. I don't know what to do with my hands. No, I don't know, but we'll do a lot. We'll figure out a lot of fun stuff to do, because there's so many relevant games for so many people, because as United fans, there's so much around the world. Definitely at the very minimum, the UK and England, the US, and some of the big matches and all that. So it'll be good. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. Good night. Smash the like on the video on the way out. Bye-bye.